Welcome to EvoBizDevo with Isis Latham, your host, your hub for personal and professional growth since 2018. At EvoBizDevo, we bring together entrepreneurs, business leaders, and change makers to spark ideas, share knowledge, and grow together. Stick with us as we explore fresh ways to expand networks, build resources, and create lasting impact. Let's get started. Welcome to Evolution Business Development. I'm Isis Latham, your host, and it's my pleasure today to get to introduce you to really one of my favorite people in business. I've come to enjoy her so much in every conversation that we have, and today is my chance to get to share her with the world of Evolution Business Development. So, Valerie Bowden. When I think about Valerie, I want to ask the question, what is the key to leveling up your business? Well, it isn't working harder, it's working smarter. And Valerie Bowden has spent years helping businesses across industries rise above the competition by taking one powerful strategic action: choose Africa. As the founder of CRDLE, she's on a mission to show why Africa is not just an option for outsourcing, but the best kept secret in the global talent economy. Before launching CRDLE, Valerie backpacked solo across Africa and called Ethiopia home for 8 years. She brings that same spirit of connection and purpose into her work today, helping entrepreneurs delegate with confidence, build strong remote teams, and reclaim their time for what matters most. She now lives in Pittsburgh with her husband and 2 kids, but her heart and her work remain firmly rooted in bridging connections and continents while shifting narratives. Please help me welcome the incredible Valerie Bowden. Thank you, Valerie.
Thank you so much. That's like the nicest intro I've ever received. I really
Oh,
appreciate it.
well, it helps when I just like you so much and want to, shout out about everything that you're doing. So here I've got a couple of questions for you that I want to ask today. But I also want to give you an opportunity to share from your heart whatever you're feeling called to say.
Mhm.
Um, and one of the questions that I was thinking about is, you've worked with businesses across so many industries. What are the biggest mindset shifts that leaders need to make when they start considering African talent for roles traditionally outsourced elsewhere?
That's a great question. They have to shift their entire perspective of Africa. I grew up in the Midwest. I'm from Indiana. And so what I grew up hearing about the continent is very different than what I realized it was when I was actually living and working on the continent. And so before you can even start thinking about hiring from somewhere else than India and the Philippines, and you start looking at African countries, you have to realize that it's not the old narrative of poverty and charities and everything we grew up. It's a huge continent. Every country is really different, very skilled and educated professionals who are really excited to plug into the global talent economy.
I am going to share right now, because there's no better time, that I have had the opportunity to work with your talent. Your process is incredible. I had a number of interviews all set up with for me with incredible talent. The hardest decision was choosing which one. I found
Mhm.
myself thinking, well, I could work with any of these women. They're all articulate. They're all well spoken in the English language. They each bring something exceptional to the table. And in the end, I ended up going with my gut and choosing the person who I thought was going to challenge me a little bit. And it was interesting to make that decision. What do you find are some of the key elements that people have to bring into the conversation to be able to make that choice? They've already decided that a VA is for them. They've already decided that they're ready to start outsourcing. But how do they decide on the right talent for them?
That's a great question because it is hard when you meet so many candidates on an interview and you kind of like all of them. It's a balance, I think, between personality and skill. So you don't want to hire just a personality hire, but especially if it's a VA, you want to really like them. And if it's a sales rep, you also really want to like them because they're going to be, representing your brand to potential prospects. The other thing is the skill and the experience. I know particularly like at CRDLE, what we do is we always say we're your second stop. It's nobody's first job being a virtual assistant with us or a sales rep. And so we hire people who are more experienced. And I think most clients don't want to train someone to learn the job. They want to train someone that already knows how to do it, and you're just training on your particular industry.
That was exactly what happened when I
Mhm.
had that conversation and then hired her. I realized that I wanted somebody to challenge me because I wanted somebody to help me grow. But in the
Mhm.
process of actually working with Elle, I realized that she had incredible knowledge and skills to bring to the table. And
Mhm.
right off the bat, she started, you know, carefully, right? She didn't want to upset the apple cart, but
Mhm.
she started helping to implement them and giving me recommendations. And I found that I probably accomplished, and I say probably only because, I don't have a specific metric to use at the moment, but I probably accomplished more in the work that I brought to her initially in those first 6 weeks than I had in, say, 2 years of trying to DIY it or outsource it here or hire over there. And she became a really integral part of my team very quickly, even to the
That
point where I started wanting to do meetings with, including her, with all of the rest of the
Mhm.
team.
That's amazing to hear. I think part of it is also if you look at like the African continent and you see all these professionals who have been, most companies won't hire them. You know, if they were to apply for a US company and you see someone from Zimbabwe or Ethiopia, most US companies wouldn't even give them an interview. So when you actually give them the opportunity, like they're so excited, they work hard, they're young, they're tech savvy. So you're right, you're going to get accomplished so many more things because you have someone who's like really excited and energized to prove themselves and to show themselves like why they deserve the job.
Yeah. Well, and you did the hard work, right? You found the talent, you
Mm.
found the client, you're being the matchmaker. So for someone who's never hired a VA before, what are the most common tasks you recommend delegating first?
That's a great question. I think you have to really think of the strategy because a VA isn't going to fix your life or fix your business if you don't put them into the right strategy. So it's whatever, there's certain things that only you can do. Like only you can show up on a podcast, but a VA can book that podcast for you. So I would always start your VA off with admin. My personal assistant helps me with my email, my calendar, helps me with like LinkedIn. It could be doing some projects. I have like a laundry list of projects that my VA just chips away with when she has extra time. It could be with social media, it could be research. We have one of our clients is a professor from Harvard, and he had his VA fight a parking ticket for him. So, I mean, you can get really out of the box with what you need a VA to do, but it's anything that you can really train on, delegate on, and frees up your time because that's ultimately what you want to do is buy back your time.
I am pretty convinced that everybody needs a VA personally, and I have some theories behind that. But I want to ask, have you ever found anybody who didn't need a VA, no matter at all in their life? And VA virtual assistant, if anybody's trying to figure out what that is.
Great question. No, I do think everybody needs a VA. I mean, at some point, maybe you don't need 40 hours, maybe you just need 10 hours. But certainly, I think if you're a business leader or an entrepreneur, there's things that you shouldn't be doing. You shouldn't be copy pasting. You shouldn't be trying to find a guest podcast. You shouldn't be doing your own calendar, your own email. There's so many things that a VA can help you with. And you can free up your time to do more strategic thinking.
So my VA actually booked you to be my speaker.
Yeah.
She did everything. She handled it from start to finish. She even recommended, based on the people in my sphere, that it should be you. Great choice, Elle. Well done.
Elle's amazing. Like shout out to Elle.
In addition to that, I was given an offer to create a presentation recently, and it was a really high level presentation. We had to create a financial um, game that was going to be played with the entire audience, but just me being able to show it in 10 minutes. I
Wow.
sent over screenshots of some ideas. She took those screenshots. She created all of the slides. It ended up being 12 slides with a header
Mhm.
and an end one. And she provided me with the finished product, then got on with me for about 5 minutes. And I said, I'd like to tweak this, this, and this. Can you do it? It was done by the time we were done on that call.
I love that you share that example. So I would call that the 10-80-10 rule. So you do the first 10%. You sent her kind of what you want it to look like. You gave her the outline. Elle did 80% of the work. And then you did the last 10%, which is just like the tweaking and the finishing touches. And that's like exactly how you should use a VA.
It made me feel so ready for that particular speaking opportunity.
Mhm.
And I'll even share that by the time we wrapped up that meeting, I had somebody who was in my sphere, who knew me well, who listens to me every week, asking me new questions, which then led to a qualified referral within 48 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So talk
And
about return on investment.
that's so cool. And it's a great demonstration of, again, what a VA can and can't do. Like only you can show up and give that presentation and, meet that prospect. But anybody can help you prepare that PowerPoint and save your time so you can spend more time showing up and meeting clients.
It's and the end goal, isn't it? So, what do you say to someone who's hesitant to delegate because they think, oh, it's just easier to do it myself, right? Because I built a lot of PowerPoints up to that point, especially when it comes to marketing or sales support.
Great question. You can't do it all. Like there's no one person who can do business, marketing, operations, finance. Like there are certain things that you're better at and that energize you. And so I would delegate the things that don't give you energy and don't fill you up and don't move the needle forward. And even if you think you can do it all, there's going to be a point where you're going to drop the ball because you can't serve all your clients and keep growing your business and handle the legal and the financial that comes with it. And what you're going to find is that the person you hire can probably do a better job than you can because that's their only job and they're dedicated to it and they can spend 100% of their energy on it. And then it will free you up to do what you like more. And so, yes, like you shouldn't, you need to delegate. It's an important life skill and business skill for sure.
Do you have any recommendations on how to perform a audit for a
Mhm.
business owner?
So I have clients who use fancy apps. I am not a fancy app kind of person. I just use Google Sheet and I did 15-minute increments like 9 to 9:15, 9:15 to 9:30. I tracked it for I think about 2 weeks and I would write the actual task I did and then the next column I would put like the general category. Was that a marketing task, finance task? And when I first did my time audit, it was so shocking in the worst way. I found out I was doing 12 hours a week on email. So that was like 25% of my time just doing email. And then what I did next is I looked at my time audit. I realized where I was spending my time, which was very different than where I thought I was spending my time. And then I looked at my ideal week and what that would look like. And I realized that there is no way I could do my ideal week of what I would want to spend my time doing and what I should be doing my time with while still doing the things that I know that I'm currently doing. And so I did go through and some tasks I eliminated, some I automated, and then a lot I delegated to my assistant that I hired.
I just want to give you a high five right through this camera because that was one of the best actions I ever took in my
Mhm.
business. I did it about 3.5 to 4 years ago, and I was horrified to find out one, how often I flip back and forth from one task to another,
Mhm.
wasting time and energy and reducing my skill, honestly, in what I was doing because I was trying to take care of 10 things at once.
Mhm.
And so I did that, and I actually did it just like you're talking about. I didn't use any fancy apps because I determined that I didn't need to add to that list trying to learn a new
Mhm.
system. So
Yes.
when I knew how to record, just scratching it out, but having it on the other monitor. And I've asked a lot of people to do that, and I've met with a lot of resistance. Did you resist it for a long time, or did you pick it up pretty quickly and easily and just say, well, I need to do this. I want the result.
No, I resisted it because I thought I knew what I was doing with my time. I really didn't know. It's kind of like if you've ever tracked calories, like you don't realize how many calories are in a beer or in a cupcake until you see it and you're like, "Oh my goodness." And so I think it's something that everyone should do and maybe even once a year because once you hire an assistant, maybe you realize that you backtrack or you brought on new work and now you're falling into old habits. And I'll even track what my assistant's time is doing because there are some things that like she could get an assistant for at this point. And so I think it's important for everyone on your team to do, but especially for business owners, once a year, it should be mandatory.
You just said something that I have been preaching now for a
Mhm.
bit in saying, I would even go so far as to say at some point I will hire a VA for my kids because
Mhm.
why do they need to do some of these tasks? Now they have to clean their own room because they got to learn that before I'll hire somebody to do that part. And we
Mhm.
do have a housekeeper. The housekeeper does the rest of the house, not their rooms. They haven't earned that right yet. But to be able to have somebody to help them as they're matriculating through high school and into college, to be able to do some of these tasks that they don't need to be doing. And and I think you're right for each and every one of us to go back and audit again, just like we might with, okay, how is my diet? Is it really getting me the results I want? How are my exercise routines? Are they getting me the results that I want? Um, so I guess the goal is to free up time to live a better and higher quality life. So tell us a little bit about what it's like to be Valerie Bowden, the wife, the mom, right? We know you now as a business owner and how incredible you are, but what's the rest of the story?
Well, I have a 2-year-old and an almost 5-year-old, and we are in that, young children phase. So we are definitely busy. And my husband is Ethiopian. So this is his first time living in the US. We've been back in Pittsburgh for 3 years, before that, Ethiopia. So I think it's a really sweet time. And I have to remind myself when we get busy, like, I'm gonna look back and really miss these days. And so when I'm not working, I'm just with my kids, to be honest. There's nothing super exciting, but I'm enjoying being a mom and a mompreneur for sure.
Yeah, just to be able to curl up with a book. And I'll tell you, the memories you're creating,
Mm.
they're incredible. And right now you're in the thick of it in those moments, but 6, 7, 8 years from now, you're going to look back and you're going to go, oh yeah, those were the illustrations in that book. That was the story. I
Mhm.
still have, Dark and Stormy Night comes up all the time in my life because that was one of the kids' favorite books that we love to read together.
That's so fun. I think what I like about what I'm doing is being able to hire a VA because it also lets me spend more time with my kids. And so I am able to take a couple hours off earlier than I was before I had a VA. And we've had some clients who said, like, I took a vacation with my daughter after she graduated high school to Europe, and I could do that because I had a VA monitoring my inbox. And so again, even if you think you don't need a VA, like if you have kids or other obligations that you want to spend more time with, like a VA will help you do that.
Yeah. What are you reading? What are you watching? Anything that we might be able to glean from you and shorten our path to getting some of the results we're looking for?
So at the beginning of this year, I did something different. Instead of reading as many books as I normally do, I hired experts, and I went a little overboard. So obviously, I hired you, which has been fantastic. But I also hired a nutrition coach, a
Yeah.
business coach, and I love therapy, so I'm always in and out of it every few years. And I didn't realize I had hired kind of four coaches to work with all at the same time within January and February. But it has been so helpful because sometimes you read books and it's great advice, but it's not really fine tuned towards you. Like what I've learned from you is significantly different than if I just read a finance book. And same thing with like the nutrition coach. It's so customized towards me. And so I think the biggest thing to glean is like if you're not getting results, sometimes it's best just to hire the expert and to work with them. And it really does pay off.
Yeah. Oh, that is excellent advice. I love reading great books, watching movies, listening to podcasts, but I agree. I want to have somebody that I can go back with and have that conversation. And
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the great benefits of a wonderful coach or mentor relationship is that you don't have to spend all that time trying to explain the why and the how. You
Mm-hmm.
just simply start to talk and they just, it's like meeting somebody in that peer space instantly. And, the old friend that you had that you don't see each other for 12 years and you pick up right where you left off and all of a sudden you're off and running. I do
Yep.
think that's what a great coach does for us. And they challenge us, of course, to expand even more.
Yes. Yep. And it's something about working with a coach where you can just really take it to that next level. I know when I started working with you, I felt like I was like so out of the box because I'd like lived out of the continent. My husband's an American. How do you do finances for that? And so a book isn't going to be so specific for that, but a coach can really help you and understand more of that detail behind your life.
Yeah. Well, and each one of us is an individual. And I think, as we're wrapping up, we'll bring it again back to Cradle and what you provide. It's not a one size fits all. It
Mhm.
just happens to be that you have curated a environment where you have a solution to just about every problem. And if there's not a solution to, or if you don't have the solution, I'm pretty sure that there isn't a solution in that environment available just because you've created such a diverse talent pool.
Yes, I would say we have a great diverse talent pool because again, every client needs something different. And we also really focus on fitting into the client's current system. So sometimes people will say, well, like, how do I communicate with them? And it's like, how do you want to communicate with them? If you're a Slack person, they're on Slack. If you're Teams, if you're WhatsApp, we want them to fit into your company so it feels like a real team member. So it's harder to be bespoke, but I think that's what people need, especially when you're working with remote talent. And so that's what we try and focus on.
Well, you're doing an excellent job. You're not trying, you're doing. How does somebody get in the world of Valerie Bowden and see what's going on with Cradle? Maybe they're not ready to hire you yet, but they want to make sure that you're front and center, that you are easily accessible, and that some of the ideas and the thought leadership that you provide is getting into their consciousness. Where do they find you? How do they do that?
Well, I live on LinkedIn. I'm LinkedIn junkie for sure. So Valerie Bowden, LinkedIn. And I do post a lot of tips on how to work with remote talent. So whether you are already working with a VA or thinking about it, there's lots of tips that you can grab and steal, whether you work with us or not. And then we post a lot on our YouTube channel. And we also have a podcast where we interview like business leaders. And a lot of them are working with our talent. So you can kind of see how everybody uses VAs and sales reps differently. And so there's, yeah, tons of free advice out there.
That's wonderful. So podcast, LinkedIn, and a great website. Well, what more do we need? Any parting thoughts, or just do you want to tell us to have a great day?
I do want you to have a great day, but I would say my parting thought is our slogan. So choose Africa is kind of the slogan of Cradle. And I would just say for anybody out there who's looking at remote talent, um, there's just there's a clear ROI for hiring from Africa. There's a cool social impact. And if you're looking for a team member that you really want to grow with and that will stay with your company and can advance with you, I do think African talent is the best place to hire from.
Well, I got to say, I'm now a believer, and I love a good ROI, return on that investment, whether it's your time, energy, or money. And it's been a great choice financially as well. So I second that. Well, Valerie, thank you for being with us at Evolution Business Development. This has been a treat.
Thank you so much. I've enjoyed being here.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Want to be our next featured speaker? Click the link in the description to register, and let's stay connected. Follow me on all those social media platforms for financial tips to help you make your money work smarter while you build financial stability. Stay tuned for more, and see you in the next one.